Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Shuree Danielle, Executive Creative Director and CEO of 4K More Creative. We are a production and advertising agency, and we exist to create content that shifts mindsets towards a more beautiful, equitable, and inclusive world. And today, for Women's History Month, we have a dope leader on the yellow couch, Dr. Karen with MK Circle CEO Institute. What's up, girl? How you doing?
I am wonderful. Thanks for having me.
It's so awesome to have you on the couch. And this happens to be my executive coach.
That is a yes.
So Dr. Karen, 4K More is bringing to the couch for this Women's History Month women who are really making a difference in their community, in business, in the arts. And what I love about you is you have your hands in almost all of those things. So tell us a little bit about who you are. How many businesses do you own? Like, what are you doing out here in these streets?
Wow. We ain't got that much time.
Okay.
So I'm gonna break it down as quick as possible. But there's a lot to cover in that area. Definitely own MK Circle CEO Institute, which you mentioned, and we cover basically executive coaching, counseling, and small business CEO support. My husband and I we own 4 different businesses that are all over 500K. That are doing way over that. Actually.
Okay.
But doing well, of course, in that space. Definitely work with our community. We have grants to support small business CEOs because we want them to get services that they would not normally be able to afford from an executive space. We do that same thing for executives. We also do that for counseling. So I do believe in giving back. I'm the girl from Compton, California. I started there, and it's where my roots are, but it definitely pushed me to become what I am now today. And that's a nutshell.
Girl, when I first spoke with you and I was exploring getting an executive coach, and we'll explain what an executive coach is later, one thing that really stuck out to me was that you shared some statistics on how many women-owned businesses actually survive. So share a little bit of those with our audience.
Yeah. Well, actually, the numbers are much better now. But definitely before, it was really low. It was somewhere in that 28 to 30 percentile, and it's got a little bit better. I'm not talking leaps and bounds, but it's gotten a little bit better. So it's probably now kind of knocking somewhere, trying to get to 40, but it's probably like in that 36 range right now. But it is just simply because we start our cookie business in our kitchen, or we, buy a studio or rent a studio and go like, I'm a creative. I want to just do what I love. And nobody really looks at the idea of what it means to truly be a CEO. And the moment you start baking those cookies, or the moment you decide you're going to rent that studio, you now are an executive officer of your organization. And some of the ideas or some of the what you think should work is not always going to work, because now we have more involved in this process of CEOing. It's just a different vibe. It's a different thing. And I think a lot of people kind of mix the two because I want to do what I love, and you can. Yeah, you can, but you also want to do what you love. You want to monetize what you love, right? And you want to grow what you love. And so we can't stay. We probably going to hit this subject somewhere down the line in our conversation, but you can't stay in a fixed mindset. Yeah. You have to look at it from a growth perspective.
Yeah. So there's a lot of women, starting businesses. There's a lot of trends on Instagram and on TikTok about bossing up, being a boss lady, about being a boss chick, about, all this stuff, but still broke. So you boss up, boss lady, boss chick, and you still broke. What in the world is causing, because I heard some statistics that almost half of all businesses started by women fail within the first year.
Oh, real talk. Definitely real talk.
So
they didn't even make it a year.
Not even a year. Okay. So when I started 4K More, again, I relaunched. So I've been trying to launch this thing for a decade, but I finally went full time last year, April 15th. And that's why I called you, because I started seeing these statistics. You were sharing with me these statistics. I knew I needed a coach Also, if I was going to take on the responsibility of being chief executive officer of a whole company, I needed to know what the heck that meant. So what is a CEO? So if somebody is really trying to start their business, their cookie business or whatever their business is, and they're like, I'm a CEO, I'm a boss babe. What does it really mean to be a CEO?
Right. Yeah, the trending topics are pretty cool. That whole concept of, boss chick, all that other stuff. It's cute.
She said it's cute. It's cute. That's all it is, huh? It's just cute.
Just at the end of the day, CEO really means Chief Executive Officer. And that means you are over everything. And when you first start, you really are over everything. You have all the hats, right? You wearing all the hats. But what it comes down to is that you have a vision. You know what you want to do, but then you have to then say, okay, but what does this look like in the long term? What am I trying to emulate? What am I really trying to create? And I honestly think that when people start their business, that it's great to start in the space of feeling creative and feeling like you're doing what you love, but you have to ask your question to yourself somewhere in there. What do I really want this to be? Right? Are you just doing it because you love it? So you just want to be in that space? And yeah, you could just be a business owner and just love that, But if you're saying, no, I really want to advance it. I want to make more money. I want to grow this. I want to reach more people. That comes with understanding that CEO mentality, because it's not just about, I just
manifesting.
Doing what I love, right?
We're not just sitting around manifesting and things are just happening.
You got to do some work. It's real work. It's no joke. It's real work. But it's real work that you can make fun. You don't have to not have fun doing it, but you want to think strategy. You want to be more strategic about your decision making, not just because it feel good. Because feel good decisions is where it goes back to those statistics. We make decisions based off of our emotions sometime, or based off of how we feel about things should roll, and not really looking at the strategy, not looking at the data, not looking at the true data around your audience.
Yeah.
And then you miss a mark. And if you miss that mark, now we stuck, or we stand still when the goal of business is always to advance. But you got to ask yourself that question, right? What are you trying to emulate? Where are you trying to be? What are you trying to grow to?
Right. I think it's hard to get there when you are carrying that pressure as a CEO. Depending on where you're at in your walk of life as a woman, you might have kids, you might be single, you might be, who knows, whatever the situation is, but it's an extra thing to carry. Yeah. So for me, I needed to make sure I had an executive coach who would walk with me to ensure that my blind spots were covered, that would help me strategize, that would help be a second set of eyes to look at the decisions that I want to make, and help me delineate, is this an emotional thing or is this actually a strategic thing that is backed by data, so that I can at least have a good chance of this thing working out. And so that's what you've been to me. For those who are listening, what is an executive coach?
Okay. So it's a strategy partner at the end of the day. It's somebody that you can strategize with, but in a space where you can trust, right? Where there's no judgment. I think we stop doing a lot of things, and we don't do a lot of things because of judgment and fear of being judged, or fear, period. And so in a space with an executive coach, there's no judgment, right? You have a strategy partner you can talk to about anything. And don't let nobody fool you that thinking that business is the only thing you're going to talk about with an executive coach. And if there's an executive coach out there and they say only we talking about business, then they're not talking about human behavior. We're all humans. And so life comes in play. You have to be able to talk about your personal space, your professional space, even sometimes your social space if it crosses over in your business space. You have to be able to talk about it all. And you need a strategy partner to do that. And that's what executive coaching does. It's a strategy partner. But this is also somebody who knows the strategies, right? Someone who can bring you tools, someone who has done it before, right? Who has been in your shoes and able to help you come up. Of course, I have a lot of individuals who say they're executive coaches, and I meet them, and it goes back to what's the result, right? Your executive coaches should be able to share with you their results, and what they're doing should be growing.
Speaking of results, tell me a little bit about yours.
Oh, shoot.
How many people have you coached? What's some of the success stories?
Oh, wow, that's the fun part, the success stories. We're probably about, I've coached probably about 500. We have more. We have, clients come and go, of course, but I've probably coached about 500 clients total. And in that, if I think about, just give you some statistics from last year, 2022, we actually keep the statistics for our business, our executives who are advancing, right? And when I say executives, I honestly mean entry-level leaders, mid-level leaders, and those tops in the C-suite. So we coach all. And so in 2022, what we look for is if those individuals are trying to advance, right? Whether they're looking for a new opportunity or they are want to advance in their organization, and we look at what is the income of those transactions, right? And so when we look at that, we usually have in that range of our clients, usually about, I would say, roughly probably 41% of them are looking to advance. Some of them are just looking to be better communicators. But in that advancement group, in 2022, they grossed in their negotiation or advancement, $436,000. So those are just numbers that we calculate to say, okay, in that group, because of the coaching that we've done, this group of individuals have collectively have gained $436,000 plus, right? And we already have met that mark in 2023, and you see we're only in March?
Yeah. That's excellent.
So that's just one of those statistics that keeps our data, helps us understand what are we doing right? How is it advancing our individuals we work with?
So when we started, you and I, there was a couple things that were at the forefront of our relationship, which was, number one, what is your leadership style, Shuree? Like, how do you lead? Where are you seeing business from? Where are you seeing people from? Where are you seeing the world from? Where are you seeing yourself from? So perspective, right, was very important. Like mindset was very important. The other piece was, what are you doing to get sales? And I'm like, I'm trying to finish my business plan. I just want to sit around and make a website. Like, I want to just make art. And you're like, where are your clients?
Right.
And I was so frustrated because I'm like, well, let me just get the stuff together. And you're like, you're working for yourself. So let's look at your bank account and make sure you ain't going to be out there professing that you're bossing up and you're broke.
Right.
So that was interesting that, you put those two pieces together for me immediately. Sales is uncomfortable. Right. And then I think, for some people.
Right.
So for me, why it was uncomfortable is because I didn't have a good handle on pricing. I didn't have a good handle, I think, on processes and systems of how I wanted things to flow in my company.
Right.
In addition, my contractors were all over the place in their rates, with their rates, right? So my videographer was this, and this videographer was that, and this editor was this and that. So I couldn't get a handle on my pricing. And we immediately started working out like, hey, you need a price list, like very practical things. You need a price list. This is what you're offering. People don't come to you and tell you what they're offering. This is what you pay for these positions. And that's when things started to become strategic, right? So I get a client, I know how to pitch now. I feel confident in the numbers. So now I feel more confident in going to get sales because I know it's not going to turn into, for lack of better words, a shit show when it gets down to the end of it and I'm losing money. Because oftentimes if we don't have a strategy, we start moving in projects, we lose money.
Real
Bottom
talk.
line. Yeah.
Who's your coach?
Dr. King. Yes.
Real talk. No, I mean, I think it's real. It's true. I mean, you have to start from a place of first understanding what you're doing, right? Again, we start out, we do what we love. And when we do what we love, we don't tie strategy to doing what we love. We don't tie a price list to doing what we love. It's like, we're just doing what we love. And then what happens is you start making money on it, and then you go, oh, shoot, I'm doing what I'm love, and now it's making money. Now what do I do with that? That kind of goes back to that CEO one that I was talking about. You have to understand that there's pieces to this thing, and you have to structure some of it. It has to have some kind of structure to it, so then that you can at least be able to, when people say, how much did you make, you'll be able to identify how much you can make. You know, people ask me all the time, do I need a business plan right away? I go, you know what? Create a pitch deck first. You want to create a pitch deck, because at least the pitch deck at least be able to tell me what you're trying to gain. And it's a quicker way to at least get some information on it, because pretty much if you create the pitch deck, you have a business plan. You know, so it's kind of understanding what you just, I mean, I think you hit it all. Just kind of understanding that it takes more than just doing what we love and that emotional connection to the fact that we're good at something. Mm-hmm. When it turns into a business, that's where strategy kicks in, and understanding the data, audience, you know, what's your model? How you trying to, how you going to make money doing this? How you going to sustain money doing this?
Yeah. Knowing your numbers are important. I think knowing your why is important, but I don't think that your why immediately can drive you. For instance, mine is I want to be able to provide creatives of color equitable opportunities in the creative economy, right? So I want to just get as many creative of color jobs as I possibly can. Right. But if I would have led with that, and I kind of was trying to, and you were stopping me, I'm just getting my friends, I'm getting my homies, I'm like, yo, let's go do this thing. But what ended up happening a little bit for me, and I had to course correct, was the people I wanted to bring along weren't ready specifically to fulfill the strategy that I needed them to help me fulfill as a CEO. Because you said when we first started, what is it,
51% rule.
What does that mean? The 51% rule.
51% rule is that, you know, there's a lot of times that people, when you think about 100%, in making decisions, somebody has to be the 51, because you can't make a decision at 50-50. There's really no decision made. Somebody loses at 50-50, no matter what people say, right? But when you're in a CEO role, you are the 51%. And so kind of going back to what you're saying, people were coming to you with all these different price lists. It's like, you're the 51%. So if you're the 51%, the 49 can't come and tell you how to do things. You're the 51. Set the expectation. And that's what the expectation is. Now, granted, the 49 is a quite powerful number, I believe, in that structure, because people can influence. And you do want to know that there's good influencers who can help you, because that means the influencers, good influencers, are bringing you data, bringing you information that's going to support your decision making, because they understand you are the 51%, right? So we have to definitely understand who's the 51%. In any discussion, in any strategy, in any business decision, who is running the decision.
And I think owning that as a woman, like I've been talking to other women on this podcast about this, like what is it about us as women that make us feel like we don't deserve to be the 51? Like that we can't affirmatively say the buck stops with me. I think there's a lot of, like, you know, patriarchal things in there. I think there's a lot of bias stuff that we've you know, learned, generational. But at the end of the day, it's true. When we talk about going broke, nobody else is gonna go broke when you run your business. But you. That bankruptcy is gonna be on your credit report. You gonna lose your house, right? Like, so I think it's important just to understand that you are carrying the burden. And if the people that you're bringing on do not understand that or respect that or honor that, right, that you are working to go get the sales so that we all have bread, you know, and so I need you to support the strategy and the values and mission of this company and treat our clients like, you know, with white glove service, because they're the ones, right, who we are serving and are paying our bills, then you can't rock with me. And I think being able to say no to people, even people you really love, is hard. It's so hard.
Well, that's based off operational style, right? People can,
that's true.
Some people can't do it. Some people can't do it. But I think what you just described is setting expectations. So in your business, you have to be clear about setting expectations in your business, about what you expect. And so if you don't set those expectations, for example, and you and I have talked about this, if you need something done, but then you send an email just saying, hey, can you get this done? You didn't set an expectation. Right? Because you just said, hey, can you get this done? And then you and I are talking. It's like, it didn't get done. They didn't follow through. I'm like, well, what was the expectation? What did you set? You just said, get it done. That's not an expectation. But if you say, hey, the project is this, and the project has this kind of deadline, so I need your help in making sure it gets done by this time, because this is what the project is. Now you've clearly set an expectation that there's a timeline. Here is the importance of the project. And so now it's clear. Because now you can hold people to the expectation. Right? But before, if you just go, hey, here's this, get this done, then they get to say, oh, I get to set the expectation on when it gets done, how it gets done, and then give it to you the way I want to give it to you.
Yep. And I remember like right after that conversation where I was telling you that somebody wasn't getting something done, I called them and I said, so tell me high level, how long will it take you? Because I had a little bit of flexibility for you to get X, Y, and Z done.
Yeah.
The person says, this is high level. Okay. I said, so when I'm going to set first draft by this, second draft and final. Do we agree? Yes. Calendar invite with the deadline on all of our calendars. Now we have accountability. It's in our project management system, which is Asana. Right. So that is something that I think is important too. Like with CEOs, we have to manage our schedules. And part of managing our schedules is managing the company schedule, right? Like having a Google Calendar, making sure everybody is clear on all of our due dates, deliverables, key dates, and all that stuff. So there's that part. But then there's the part about the CEO life that's, it's multifaceted. So you have this idea of balancing your personal life, your social life, your business life. Like, what does it look like for a CEO to balance it all? Because we're talking about relationships. We're talking about your own emotions day to day. If you're a female, we're talking about monthly cycles that take our hormones, Lord knows where, right? Like, there's a lot going on. How do we balance?
Right. So, how do I balance? I'll just kind of give you how I do it. I'm very clear about setting time for me to balance, right? And I think you have to, especially if you do have a business where your time is taken at every little spot. That's why they have calendars, and I'm not trying to give anybody credit. I mean, there's a lot of calendar systems out there. And if they're going to sponsor me, then I have no problem.
And then you'll do a shout out.
We'll do a shout out. But none of y'all sponsoring me. So there's tons of calendaring opportunities out there. But the point is using the calendar to help you set that time, right? I could see clients every single hour of the day, and they would have no problem with me doing that. Nobody is going, Dr. Karen, what about you? Right? That's not what it's for. I mean, I have an assistant who definitely, she checks that, but I have to make sure I have that time scheduled. So like my husband and I, we have date night on Friday night, period, end of story. Nobody gets to interrupt that. Nobody gets involved in that. That's our time. And I make sure no matter if a client says, I just need to see you right away, I can see you on Monday because this is date night and I don't put anything in the middle of that. To me, there's nothing more important than you having your time. So I just schedule it. And that's because of my operational style. I like structure. I like to have it in order. But the calendaring system, I think, is the best way. If you follow that, it's the best way to be able to set your time, your personal space, and make sure you set that, though. The key is committing to yourself that you do set that time.
Committing to yourself.
Key.
Yourself.
Key.
Commit to yourself. Yeah. So your business is important, but your personal life, your mental health, all that stuff is important too. And so like when we meet, the first thing you ask me is like, where are we today?
Right.
You're trying to see where my mind is, where my mindset is, where I'm vibrating, like where my morale is, all that stuff. And we work from that point because there's a certain place that I need to be, a healthy space to CEO for real as a boss. And if I'm not operating at that space, I'm going to make bad decisions, right? I'm going to not make
bad,
decisions.
But maybe not as effective.
Okay. There are bad decisions though, aren't there? No?
I don't know. Bad to who?
Okay.
Right? Just like, is there right decisions? Right to who? I look for effectiveness.
Okay.
I don't look for if I'm doing it right. I don't look if I'm doing it wrong. Because let's say I do it right today, tomorrow it's going to be wrong. So the question is right to who, wrong to who. So I look for effectiveness, right? Gather information based off of what you want to make the most effective decision with, right? So I look at effectiveness. I just look for effectiveness, not necessarily being right or being wrong, because it changes every day.
I think that's why I love talking to you, because I'll use language and you'll help me correct it. And again, that goes back to the mindset. Like if I'm in a mindset, which is I stay there, it's hard for me to get out of that. The right or wrong. That's a very big part of just my personality, right? But this idea of like, what is most effective? What does the data say? Again, going back to the numbers, going back to the hard proof. I think that's important. I think having the ability to talk out with you and hear myself talk and have you say it back to me. I think that's also the power of an executive coach. And we hit a pivotal decision yesterday, for instance, through that I was holding on to this right or wrong, this right or wrong, this right or wrong. And finally, you just helped me walk through the data. Like, what do you know? Like, what have you seen over time with this particular situation? So why do you think it's going to end any other way? Right? And so now, since I know that data, then you say, well, what do you want out of it, Shuree? For real. Like, what's the big deal? So is it really the money for you, Shuree? No, it really was like my emotional well-being is more important than the money. And so then I made a decision based on, what does that 51 want? The 51 wanted a clear mind and to get out of a situation that really was just taking a lot of emotional energy from me and taking my ability away from focusing on moving my business forward.
I did a talk, and in that talk I said, don't waste your time, your energy, or your words on things that are stagnant. If stuff is standing still and you still talking about it, something's wrong. If things ain't moving and you still giving energy to it, something's wrong. It's just, you can't give your time to that. You can't give your words or your energy to that. Because again, if you're about growth, and people who are trying to be about growth ain't trying to be stagnant. And sometimes we can get caught up on things that stagnate us, and we don't realize it, of course, that are stagnant. And another reason why I think coaching is necessary, executive coaching is necessary, because it does help you get that unstuck space, get you from being stuck in a space and get you unstuck, you know?
And I think in our community, like I focus primarily on creatives of color. In our community, we have, you know, systemic oppression that we've been through. We have trauma that we've been through and all this other stuff. So sometimes our community is only repeating back to us narratives that possibly could be helpful or not helpful, because it's just the narrative that we're used to. And so I feel like having an executive coach at any level, I don't care if you're entry level, mid-level, you know, C-suite, helps you to have someone who's not just around you, who you don't even know necessarily where their mindset is. It helps you to have somebody with you who has a mindset of growth, for sure, speaking with you as a CEO to help you really move things forward. And I think a lot of CEOs get stuck because they're talking to the wrong people. They're just talking to the next door neighbor about Lord knows what. They don't know where their next door neighbor is in their mindset. You know what I mean? Like, not everybody is qualified to give you business advice. You know, there's personal advice, there's professional advice, there's leadership advice, there's strategic advice. And so with you, I feel like there are certain things that I will go to, you know, that I need answers on, only to you. I'm not going to my homies down the street. Like, you know, I'm just not. And I'm not going to Instagram, you know, and listening to somebody that tells me they can help me make six figures with just a 30-minute presentation. Like, this, like, there is work to this, There are actual steps. There's, again, data. You have, you know, you said 5 businesses that are millions of dollars, you know, net worth, $500,000. So I'm talking to you. I'm talking to you.
And I think that's the whole point. You know, there's a lot of people out there who are saying they're executive coaches. You know, another thing that I hold important to our company when I hire coaches is I hire executive coaches that only have terminal degrees. So and what I mean by terminal degree, that they have to have a PhD, a DBA, PsyD, doctorate in education. They have to have some form of what we call an education terminal, meaning that there's nothing higher than. There's the last education you need, actually, at that terminal level, which is at the doctoral level. And so I look for that because I know those individuals have done research. I know those individuals have done strategy. And so I want to bring that to our client base. And so our executive coaches must have that. So I really lean into education, not a certificate. And it's interesting when I go out and hire for executive coaches, I get a ton of people who have certificates and want to work for our company. And I basically say, thank you, but a certificate is not what we're looking for. I'm looking for experience, I'm looking for those who have what we have, who knows and understands the process to get to things. And they understand process to get what they need, or process to grow, or process to advance. So it just really about bringing quality. And I think that's a big part of executive coaching. But there's a ton of people out there saying they're executive coaches. It's very real. And when we started, it was clear that we were different. And I think that's another reason why we are growing the way we're growing is because we are different. Not to mention it's a Black-owned business by a Black female.
There we go.
Real talk.
Now, one of the things that
educated Black female.
An educated Black woman.
Right.
Who's educating others. And that speaks to this idea of how you're impacting your community. And so one of the things I really respect about you, and I hope to grow into being able to have more opportunity to create opportunities like you have for me, you have done the work, you have done your research to the point where you're able to say, hey, 40% of women are going to fail at starting their businesses if they do not have mentorship, if they do not have executive coaching. This is the data in your PhD that you have literally found. You go present this data and you go get grants so that you can subsidize the rates for your clients. It doesn't mean that your value is subsidized. You still getting paid. We just have been subsidized so that we can afford to work with you. And I think for me, I see that as like a leader, a person who really is creating equitable opportunities, So I think it's important for people when they're like, oh, I don't want to pay anything, because there's those people. You're going to have to pay something. So get that straight. But it may pay where you can fit, which is what you've been able to do. But I think it's very important to not get caught up in some sort of a trap where somebody online is saying, I can help you make 6 figures if you give me $20,000 specifically. Let me tell you, there's an actual story about this. There is right now an executive coach out there, a woman of color, who is going after a lot of women, a lot of Black women specifically, and she's taking them through these little online Zoom things, and then she's literally at the end getting them so emotional in their feelings, and then saying, I can change your life for $20,000 and you'll get 3 months of coaching with my coaches. She's not even on there. She has like people just doing it. And people are paying this. And I literally saw this happen, and it grieved me, because for her, that's her model, right? Like, we're not talking about right or wrong. But I will say, when we're trying to move things forward, and for me as someone who really wants to move the culture forward, and I know the statistics of like where $20,000 can get you as a small business owner, to pay that much in your first year to an executive coach, if you cannot afford it, will kill your business. And who knows what else is going to kill.
Afford it.
But even if you can.
Okay. Look, I'm not saying that people can't set up their value. I mean, our regular price is not cheap at all.
Yeah, it's not.
But it also is affordable.
Yes.
Like, we're not trying to get $20,000 to, help you with your business. Because there's a lot of stuff that already can help you with your business. This is about strategic movement, right? And so that's just kind of where we come from. And that's just, people have to ask the question. You have to ask the question. I mean, anybody saying, write me a check for $20K, that's just not going to get you what you need. I can guarantee that. It's not going to get you what you need. Now, again, I don't want to badmouth anybody out there doing their thing, but I just don't see that getting you what you need. You really have to invest the work, because as you know, our clients have to work. It's work involved, and it's not, nobody's asking you to do anything that's not going to advance your company. Right, or advance your thought process about your company, and that's important when you are trying to negotiate, a deal, or trying to get a contract signed. You have to know what does it take to go through those processes, and so, I just think when I see stuff like that, it is disheartening, very disheartening. My whole goal when I started this company was definitely to help women first, right? That goal was to start working with just women who had never been mentored, didn't understand mentorship, or didn't know how to go and get mentorship. That's kind of how it started. And then from there, we branched out, of course, into men and to everyone at that point, because it just was important for everyone to get this information that we put together to be able to help somebody advance their business, their career. We work with entrepreneurs. We work with everything. We're not a respecter of persons. That's why we have like 3 different divisions. We work with small business CEOs specifically. We work with executives specifically. But what's out there, it is disheartening. It really is disheartening what's out there. But people have to do the research.
Do the research, do the work, and commit to the process.
Right.
I think at the end of the day, we need to understand as CEOs that it's a process.
Yeah.
It's something that we're trying to build. It's a journey that we want to make our businesses sustainable. So we've got to stay on the path long enough for sustainability to actually be a thing. Right. And I think that the idea that a magic wand can be waved over you in just a few months is ridiculous, because a lot of what an executive coach does and what you've done for me is you're helping me to grow and helping me to shift my mindset.
Real talk.
And then once I shift the mindset, now I've got to actually do the work, start practicing that mindset, start living in that mindset, start operating in that mindset, start gathering data. And like, as I change, what are the results now that I'm getting? And so that just takes time. And journey. I'm meeting with you twice a month, and sometimes I'm like, I need 3 times a month. So I couldn't imagine thinking I'm going to figure all this out in 3 months. That's a lot. It's a lot of pressure. And I just want to encourage those who are listening, like, there's already going to be a lot of pressure on running your own business.
Right.
Don't trick yourself to think that all of this is going to be done overnight. Because that's how, I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. Give yourself space, give yourself time, and maybe don't launch out to start your business full time until you can have a little bit of breathing room, because you're going to need it.
Right. No, and again, it's different for everyone. And I will always say that. Like, there's no map for one map and everybody follows it. Everyone has a different journey, and everyone's at different phases of that journey. Some people may have done so much more than the other, and so you just got to know. You have to know that it's a journey, and you have to take time to go through that journey. You're right. It's not anything that's going to say, I'm gonna get the bag tomorrow. Right. And unfortunately, I think a lot are out there going, I need this bag. Because let me tell you, if money is the driver, if it's the sole driver, we're gonna have some struggles. Just simply put, because if money is the driver, if you need to pay your rent now and you trying to get something off the ground, I suggest you focus on your rent. That's real talk, because then the hustle gets involved,
right?
Because then now you just saying yes to any kind of thing because you're trying to pay your rent, and I'm not mad at the hustle, but you can't, if you're trying to really make something sustainable, you're trying to really do something, then I would say you focus in on how you pay your rent first, get that part in order, so then that we can really make the business be something it should be.
Yeah,
and it can't be if the hustle is always at the forefront.
So what should be at the forefront?
You first. I mean, you are the one who started the business. You're the one that's going to run the business. You might be the one wearing all the hats at the day one. So you are important. You really have to focus on making sure you're healthy, mentally and physically, right? And then from there, that you can only do what you can do. So focus in on what you can do today and do that. Focus in on what you could do tomorrow and do that. And however you create your list, however you create your to-dos, create them, whether you're doing it through electronic device, however you figure out how you can manage that process for yourself. But you have to first take care of you. You have to make sure you are in the healthy space to run the business. Again, and you're not in a healthy space if you're trying to get the rent paid.
You're
not in a healthy space. You have to figure out what's that healthy space for you first, for you to be successful and really just be sustainable. My goal is to help these these businesses that are owned by women, and that they're sustainable. And sustainable means that they will be around. Right? That they can then be offered to someone else who wants to do the same work. I tell a lot of women who we work with are like mothers who are like, oh, I want to give it to my daughter one day. I'm like, your daughter may not want to bake cookies. So think about who you want to give, right? Or create your succession plan of who that is, but it may not be your daughter. Your daughter may not be a good cook. Who knows? So you can't push that on your family. But again, you just have to be healthy. It's important for you. You're the number one source in running that business.
All right, we're going to close with 2 things. Number one, I want to know a time in your life where there was a failure in business, right? Like, I think we're hearing a lot about your successes, and you are extremely successful.
Yeah.
But I want to hear about a time when there was a failure, how you learned from it, and then what shift did that cause in your mentality with business. And then I want to go to another piece, and we'll close with this piece, which is this emotional intelligence piece, right?
Yeah.
That at the end of the day, how a CEO gets back up is very much based on where their level of emotional intelligence is. So let's start with a story.
Okay. Falling forward is just a part of life, right? And it can always be a win, falling forward, because then you get to see, where you messed up, so you can shift that. I'll actually take you back to when I was kind of starting out in my own leadership space, right, and kind of learning leadership, and I was actually managing somebody who was older than me. And at that point, of course, I hadn't gotten to the doctoral level and hadn't done all my research. But I go back to this story all the time because it affects me as a CEO today, and how I lead and how I manage me, and really tying back to the emotional intelligence. And so I was supervising this woman, and I said to her, well, it's just unfortunate that you are doing it wrong. It's just unfortunate that I'm your supervisor. And I meant, the way I said it, I kind of set myself up for her to go, yeah, it is unfortunate. And at that time in my life, I was, trying to be the boss of people. I wasn't trying to lead people.
Ooh, okay.
Right? And so I didn't understand what I know now, of course, in the research I have now. But I can vividly remember her checking me. And I was like, dang, whoa. And I felt something in me that says, you need to shift. What you're doing is not effective. What you're doing is not going to progress you at all.
Or others.
Or others, absolutely. And from that moment forward, I had just finished my bachelor's degree. I went straight into getting my master's. And that's how I got a hold of Dr. Daniel Goleman's book, Working with Emotional Intelligence. And when I got that book, it changed my life.
Yes.
It changed my life.
Yes.
And little did I know that I would be teaching that work. I guess I knew it was going to be in my life. It was something I was going to do. But I wound up teaching that work. And, the term sounds kind of antiquated these days.
Yeah, tell us what that is, emotional intelligence.
So really, honestly, emotional intelligence is about an awareness level of a leader.
Okay.
Right? And so we look at it just from the personal side of it, and they call it personal competencies. But to me, emotional intelligence really is understanding self and being self-aware. Okay. And we don't have enough time, but that's a good topic, right? Just understanding what awareness truly means. Like, what are you aware of? And are you intentional about being aware of things, right? Instead of just, again, not setting the expectations because you're not aware, right? So awareness is that piece. Second part is regulation, self-regulation. And that comes with regulating how we feel sometimes, regulating some emotional outbursts sometimes, right? So understanding that, how can we regulate that? Now, it's not suppression. It's very different. Suppression meaning like, I'm just going to not do nothing and I'm going to be passive aggressive and I'm just going to, that's not the same thing. Regulating is like, I'm feeling what I'm feeling, and I need to take a moment to process it because I'm feeling what I'm feeling. Right. And whether you said something that make me feel that way or whether I did something to make you say something and make me feel that way, I still got to process that. And so regulating and understanding where our emotions stand is important in our business space. It's important in our business space. It's important in our CEO space. It's not just a personal thing. It merges. There's no way you cannot. You're a human being. No way you can put them separate. Yep. It's together. I don't care what nobody try to say. That's just what it is. And the last one is motivation. Being motivated, understanding what motivation represents. There's a theory around motivation. I know you're going to ask me to say this anyway, so I'm going to share it. Dr. George Geller, I want to give him his props. He created a theory on motivation, and basically it's 3 questions. First question is, if you can say yes to all 3 of these questions, then you're motivated to get something done, right? So the first question is, can you do it? So whatever you put to your mind, whatever you decide, whatever that is, can you do that? And if you can say yes to that, then you go to the next question. And the second question is, will it work? Pretty much, if you can do it, probably it's going to work, right? You probably can put your mind to it and it could probably work. But to me, the most important question is that last question is it worth it?
Is it worth it?
Right?
Is it worth it?
Because you can do it and it will work. But at the end of the day, is it worth it? Is it going to bring you value? Is it going to bring you what you're looking for? Is it going to bring you sustainability? Is it going to bring you growth? You have to be clear about, is it worth it?
Yeah.
Right? Because somebody else can tell you, oh, it's worth it. But then you have to go back to the awareness piece and go like, is it worth it for me? Right? Is it worth it for me? So, I'm always applying that in my life, right? And understanding that theory of motivation. So anyway, that's what emotional intelligence, I say, is, in a nutshell, is those three components with kind of that caveat of, is it working? Because then it takes you right back to the awareness piece. It takes you right back to the the regulation piece. It's a cyclical process.
In Harvard, there was a study that said what separates top performers in any niche industry with the same skills, so same talent level, same industry. The thing that separates the top performers, meaning those who are going to knock it out of the park and become like the leaders in that industry, boils down to emotional intelligence. It's the ones who have emotional intelligence. And I think it goes back to that motivation piece specifically. When things get hard, it's that worth it piece that keeps you going. Because at the end of the day,
you can do
the people who are successful are people who just keep showing up and consistently doing the thing.
That's right.
All right?
That's it.
While everybody else is dropping out, because they're just like, it ain't worth it anymore, or they just got so tired, or they didn't regulate, and they've just burnt out, right? The people who have emotional intelligence become top performers. And so at the end of the day, if you want to be a dope CEO, I think we've concluded you need an executive coach. You need to create strategies. There needs to be processes. There needs to be some level of accountability with people who you can trust and who are experts with proven systems in the field of business, right? And then at the end of the day, those emotional intelligence key things you shared, which were awareness, self-regulation, and motivation, and being able to apply that theory of motivation. And if you apply that theory of motivation, it's going to take you to growth mindset. Yeah, let's go. Get out of that fixed mindset. There's so much more. Hashtag growth mindset. There's so much more. Now, where can people find you? They're all going to be wanting to sign up now. That'd be nice. That's cool. Let's go. Probably the quickest way is through our website. So, mkcircle.com or www.mkcircle.com and just click on Start Your Journey button. It's just that simple. And then you actually will get a 30-minute consult with me. And we just talk about your growth goals, talk about, where you're going, and we tell you a little bit about our programs, and then we get it. We don't waste time. We don't shuffle our feet. If you're serious, and we go. Let's go. If you're not serious, circle back. We'll be here. Right? We're not going nowhere. And so that's the quickest way to get to us. But you can always follow us on social media at MK Circle CEO. MK Circle CEO and everything, pretty much, except for TikTok. We trying to figure out what that market is about to do. They're about to shut it down or not. So we still kind of toggling on that one. But for the most part, any social, you can catch us at MK Circle CEO. I do this quote every Thursday called Thought Provoking Thursday. And it's usually from a talk that I've done or interviews sometime that I've done that I kind of just throw out quotes just to kind of help you stay in the mindset. Let's go. Catch a thought and, something you can flow by, something that can work for you. Everything ain't for everybody. But I think there's a lot of good stuff in those quotes. So anyway, you can catch that on MK Circle CEO, again, on any other platforms. And if you want to follow me personally, I'm at Dr. Karen Exec Coach. So you can always catch me on any platforms with that Dr. Karen Exec, EXE Coach. And you can follow me. All right. Follow me. I'll do my best. I ain't gonna lie. I ain't the only one doing my social media these days. So, but I do scroll through. So if you follow me and I catch it, or you just send me something, say, "Hey, Dr. K, I caught you with Shuree," I'll make sure I follow you back. Yeah, that's awesome. Well, you've made a huge difference in my life, and I am super happy that I've been able to make it through 1 year of like doing 4K more full time.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm on my way to having a sustainable business,
That's
and
right.
a lot of
That's right.
that credit goes to just you, and thanking you for just sticking with me and
Right.
helping me to regulate through so many damn
Real
things.
talk. Real talk.
All right, peace.